Right now, under your feet, there is another world. Not a metaphor. Tunnels. Halls the size of cathedrals. Storerooms stocked for decades. In some places, entire cities, carved into rock, wired for power, waiting in the dark. Most of them do not appear on any public map, and a few of them were built for one purpose, so that a very small number of people could disappear underground, seal the door, and outlive whatever is coming for the rest of us. Tonight we are going down. We are going to walk through the ones that are real and documented, the ones governments have quietly admitted exist, and then the ones that are only whispered about, the ones no official will confirm, and the reason the whispers refuse to die. Stay with me to the end, because the strangest part is not some ancient ruin. It is what the richest people alive are building right now. Before we go down, do this one thing: subscribe. Because this channel opens the doors most people never even know are there, and you do not want to be standing on the surface when we do. Let us start with proof that this is old, older than you think. In central Turkey, in a region called Cappadocia, there is a town called Derinkuyu. In 1963, a local man was renovating his house. He knocked down a wall in his basement, and behind it was a passage. He kept going. What he found underneath the town was a city. Not a cellar, a city, dug straight down into soft volcanic rock, 18 levels deep, reaching about 85 meters below the surface. That is the height of a 20-story building, inverted into the ground. Derinkuyu could hold as many as 20,000 people. And not just people, their livestock, their food, their wine presses, their stables, their chapels, their schools. It had ventilation shafts drilled down through every level, so the air stayed breathable at the very bottom. It had wells for water that could not be poisoned from above. And at each level, there were massive round stone doors like millstones, weighing up to a ton, that could be rolled shut from the inside. From the inside. Whoever built this was not planning to keep people in. They were planning to keep something out. The digging may have started as early as the 8th century before Christ. The city was expanded and used for well over 1,000 years. It was a place to vanish into whenever armies swept across the land above. Think about what that means. For most of human history, in at least one part of the world, the plan for survival was not to run. It was to go down and pull a stone door shut and wait in the dark until the danger passed. That instinct never left us. It only got bigger and better funded, because a few thousand years later, we did it again, on an industrial scale. And this time, we had dynamite. In Colorado, there is a mountain called Cheyenne Mountain. Between 1961 and 1967, the United States military hollowed it out. They removed something like 693,000 tons of granite from the inside of the mountain. And into that void, they built a base. Not tunnels, a cluster of steel buildings standing on giant springs so that if a nuclear blast shook the mountain, the buildings inside would sway instead of shatter. There was a mile of solid rock above their heads. This is the command center that was meant to survive a Soviet nuclear strike and keep watching the skies over North America while the surface burned. It cost about $142 million in 1960s money. It has blast doors weighing tens of tons that can seal the entire complex from the outside world. And here's the thing you have to hold on to. This one is not a theory. It is real, it is confirmed, and it has been operating for decades. The most secure address in America is inside a mountain, behind a door built to hold back the end of the world. And Cheyenne Mountain is not alone. It is one node in a network. There is a place on the border of Pennsylvania and Maryland called Raven Rock. Inside the security world, it has a nickname, the Underground Pentagon. It was conceived around 1950, under President Truman, as an alternate military command center, a second Pentagon that could run a war if the real one was destroyed. 600,000 or 700,000 square feet of space, cut into the rock, capable of housing thousands of people. Nearby, in Virginia, there is another one, Mount Weather, run by the Federal Emergency Agency. This one meant for the civilian leadership, the president, the cabinet. These are not conspiracy sites. Their existence is a matter of public record. They belong to an official program with a bland bureaucratic name, Continuity of government. On paper, it is simply the plan to keep the country running after a catastrophe. But say it slower. Continuity of government. It is a documented, funded plan for the leadership to descend into hardened bunkers, seal themselves off, and continue while the surface deals with whatever ended everything else. The bunkers are real. What people argue about is who gets a spot inside them and who is left standing at the door. Now cross the Atlantic because the British did the same thing and then they admitted it. In the county of Wiltshire, in an old underground quarry called Spring Quarry, there is a place with a shifting list of code names. Burlington, Turnstile, Site 3. It is a subterranean complex covering around 35 acres, sitting roughly 37 meters below the surface. It was built to be the emergency seat of the entire British government in a nuclear war. Room for up to 4,000 people. The Prime Minister, the Cabinet, the senior civil service. Reportedly, a place set aside for the royal family. An entire hidden capital, ready underground, with its own telephone exchange and enough supplies to run a country from a hole in the ground. For decades, its existence was denied or simply never discussed. Then, in December of 2004, it was formally declassified. The secret city under the English countryside became a matter of public record, and a portion of it was quietly leased out to a wine company. They now use the old government war headquarters to store fine wine in the perfect cool and darkness that was originally designed to outlast a nuclear exchange. That is the pattern, once you see it. A government builds a city underground. It denies it for decades, and then, eventually, it turns out to be exactly what people suspected, which is worth remembering when we get to the ones that have not been admitted yet. But the West was not even the most extreme. Look east. In 1969, tensions between China and the Soviet Union exploded into actual fighting along their border. Mao Zedong became convinced that a nuclear strike on Beijing was possible, so he gave an order that turned into one of the largest hand-dug projects in human history. Dig deep, store grain, prepare for war. Beneath the capital, over the next 10 years, an estimated 300,000 people dug by hand. They created what is sometimes called the underground city, a network of tunnels sprawling across an estimated 85 square kilometers beneath Beijing. Around 10,000 bomb shelters, shops, a cinema, storehouses, even a mushroom farm, because mushrooms could grow underground without light, feeding people who might have to live down there. An entire second Beijing, below the first, built by hand out of fear. Most of it is closed now, some of it flooded or repurposed, but it is down there. A city that most of the millions of people living above it have never seen. So the pattern is global. Turkey, America, Britain, China. Whenever people at the top become truly afraid, they do not look up for salvation. They dig. And that brings us home, to the most secretive version of all. The one where the government will not confirm and will not deny. Moscow. For years there have been reports of a second secret metro system beneath the Russian capital. Not the ordinary subway that millions ride every day, a deeper one. Its unofficial name is Metro 2. Its rumored code name is D6. According to the accounts, it runs far below the normal lines. Some reports say as deep as 210 meters, and it was built for one purpose, to move the country's leadership in secret, to connect the Kremlin, the Ministry of Defense, key residences, and a government airport, all through tunnels that do not appear on any passenger map. Now here is where we have to be honest with you, because that is the whole point of this channel. The idea of secret evacuation lines for the leadership is entirely plausible, and it lines up with what every other major power built during the same era. But the detailed maps, the specific stations, the claims of vast underground staff, those come from urban explorers and enthusiasts, not from any released document. The Russian security services have never confirmed Metro 2 exists, and never quite denied it either. The first semi-official acknowledgement came around 2004, when a former senior Kremlin aide referred to the existence of a special line. Beyond that, it lives in the space between denial and rumor, and in that same space lives something even bigger, a supposed underground complex beneath southwest Moscow in an area called Ramenki. By the accounts of alleged former officers, it is not just a bunker. It is an underground town built between the 1960s and 70s. It supposedly spans hundreds of acres. It could shelter as many as 120,000 people, and it was stocked, they say, with enough food to last as long as 30 years. Even a version of Time magazine once wrote about Moscow's secret underground plans. But again, the numbers come from claimed insiders, not from documents. So we hold it exactly as what it is, a powerful, unconfirmed story hovering over a very real habit of building down. And this is where the confirmed world hands off to the world of theory. Because if you take everything we just walked through, the real bases, the admitted networks, the continuity of government programs, and you ask a simple question, you arrive somewhere strange. If they built all of this that we know about, how much did they build that we do not? That question has a name in conspiracy circles, DUMB, Deep Underground Military Bases. The theory says that beneath the United States and the wider world, there is a vast hidden network of enormous secret bases, connected by tunnels, hosting everything from command centers to laboratories. The most cited figure in this field is a researcher named Richard Sauder, who wrote a book about underground bases in 1995. And Sauder did something clever. He built his case partly on real, declassified engineering documents, Army Corps studies, defense research on deep basing. Those documents prove that the United States has seriously planned and built deep underground facilities since at least the late 1950s. That part is factual. The leap comes when the theory extends those real tunnels into a secret world of alien laboratories and hidden cities. The most extreme version attaches to a place in New Mexico called Dulce. Starting around 1979, a businessman named Paul Benowitz became convinced he was intercepting signals from an underground alien base near the town of Dulce. Later, a man named Phil Schneider claimed he had personally built it and had survived a battle with the creatures living below. Now, the honest version is this. Investigations over the years have pointed to Benowitz being fed disinformation and Schneider's story falling apart under scrutiny. So we filed Dulce where it belongs, not as a fact, but as one of the most famous legends of the underground, a story that grew precisely because so much of the real underground is hidden that people fill the darkness with monsters. But strip away the aliens, and one hard question remains, and it is the one that should actually keep you up at night. Forget whether there are creatures under New Mexico. Ask instead, who today is quietly buying a place underground for themselves? Because that answer is not a theory. It is documented. And it is happening right now. In Kansas, there is a decommissioned missile silo, the kind that once held a nuclear weapon. In 2008, a developer named Larry Hall bought one for a few $100,000 and turned it into something called the Survival Condo. It is a luxury bunker built down into the old silo, roughly 15 stories deep, wrapped in concrete walls up to nearly 9 feet thick. Inside, there is a pool, a bar, a shooting range, a little indoor farm, a medical suite. It is designed to keep dozens of people alive, in comfort, for years, fully sealed off. And the apartments inside sold for prices reported between $1.5 and $4.5 million each. Think about that sentence. There are people who have already spent millions of dollars to buy an apartment inside a former nuclear missile silo, so that when something happens, they can go underground and lock the door behind them. And it is not one eccentric. It is a movement among the wealthiest people on the planet. Companies now sell converted bunkers marketed like luxury hotels. Tech founders have quietly acquired land and built compounds with underground components. Reporting in recent years has described something striking. A large share of the ultra-rich now treat what they call apocalypse insurance as normal, as just another asset, something you own, next to the yacht and the second passport. A safe place, underground, for when the surface stops being safe. And no country has embraced this more completely than one small wealthy nation in the middle of Europe, Switzerland. Since a law passed in 1963, Switzerland has required nuclear shelter capacity for its population. The result, decades later, is almost unbelievable. The country has hundreds of thousands of shelters, with enough protected space for more than its entire population. Let that land. There is a country where there are more spaces and bunkers than there are people to fill them. An entire nation quietly ready to move underground. So step back and look at the whole picture. Not the aliens, not the wild numbers, just the confirmed, documented reality. Ancient people carved cities 85 meters deep to survive. Modern superpowers hollowed out mountains and dug second capitals beneath their first ones. There are official programs with official names for the leadership to descend and seal the doors. And the richest individuals alive are, right now, buying their own private darkness, deep enough to outlast whatever they are afraid of. The secret was never really whether these places exist. Most of them do. The real secret is the one hiding in plain sight in every one of these projects, from Derinkuyu to the missile silo in Kansas. Every underground city ever built was an answer to the same silent question. What is coming that the people who know the most want most of all to be underground when it arrives? They are not telling us. But they are digging. They have never stopped digging. And the door, when it closes, only locks from the inside. If this is the kind of door you want opened, tell me in the comments which one we go through next. The tunnels under Moscow, the bunkers of the billionaires, or something deeper that I have not shown you yet. Subscribe and stay off the surface with me. I will see you below.